Chapter 1. The Abandoned House and the Curse. In a remote village hidden deep within a valley, surrounded by dense forests, there lay an abandoned house at the village's edge, a house no one dared to mention. Years ago, a family had lived there, but one night they vanished without a trace. The husband, the wife, and their 10-year-old daughter all disappeared mysteriously. The strange thing was that the dining table remained set, with half-eaten food, and the oil lamp still flickered faintly, as if something had interrupted them mid-meal. Villagers whispered that the family's souls never left the house, and anyone who ventured inside would be trapped in endless nightmares. Those who dared to enter returned with terrifying stories. Some came back with haunted, vacant expressions, muttering incoherent words. Others were never seen again, leaving only their dirt-stained shoes abandoned at the doorstep. "Don't look into the mirror in that house," was the only warning passed around in the village. In the living room stood an old, tarnished, silver-framed mirror. Those unfortunate enough to catch a glimpse of their reflection swore they saw something off. Their reflection was distorted, as if something from the other side of the mirror was imitating them, waiting for the right moment to step out into the real world. At first, the villagers thought the house was simply cursed, that perhaps some tragedy had trapped the spirits within. But strange things started happening in the village itself. At night, strange knocks echoed from the doors of nearby homes. A few villagers claimed to have seen a woman standing beneath a tree in the backyard of the abandoned house. Her long hair dripped as if wet, and her eyes bulged wide open, with lips moving soundlessly. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the woman. It was the sound of a child's laughter. The eerie giggles would drift through the air, sometimes near, sometimes far, like a child playing hide-and-seek in the night. They believed it was the spirit of the little girl who once lived in the house, searching for a new friend. One fateful night, Tuan, a young man from the village, decided to explore the house, convinced the rumors were nothing but silly tales. "Ghosts aren't real," he scoffed at his friends. But from the moment he crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. The air inside the house was unnaturally cold, even though it was a scorching summer night outside. A strange putrid odor clung to the walls, mixed with the scent of damp wood. With a flickering flashlight in hand, Tuan ventured further into the house. His beam revealed deep claw marks running down the peeling walls, from the ceiling to the floor. A sense of unease crept over him, as if something was following him, though no one was there whenever he turned around. Yet each of his steps was echoed by another set of footsteps. When Tuan reached the mirror in the living room, a chilling draft brushed past his skin. His breath caught in his throat as he looked into the mirror. He saw himself, but the reflection did not blink. Then, slowly, the image in the mirror smiled, a grotesque, twisted grin full of malice. Before Tuan could react, the figure in the mirror began pounding on the glass from the inside, as if it was trying to break free. At that exact moment, Tuan's flashlight flickered and went out. In the suffocating darkness, the sound of a child's laughter echoed right next to his ear. A cold hand gripped his shoulder. Terrified, Tuan screamed and bolted for the door. But just as he thought he had escaped and swung the door open, he realized something horrifying. He was still standing in the living room in front of the mirror. The door he had opened did not lead outside, but back into the very same room, where the child's eerie giggles continued to reverberate endlessly. From that night on, Tuan was never seen again. The only thing that remained was the sound of laughter, haunting the village every night, a chilling reminder that the house never lets anyone escape, ever. Chapter 2. The Search for Tuan. Days turned into weeks, and Tuan's absence loomed over the village like a shadow. His disappearance was unlike him, stirring unease among the villagers who whispered about the abandoned house. Tuan had become the latest victim of its sinister reputation, and the tales of the haunted place were becoming ever more chilling. His younger sister, Mai, was particularly affected. Each night, she dreamed of Tuan wandering through foggy landscapes, his voice calling out for help. Determined to find him, she steeled herself to confront her fears and ventured towards the cursed house, lantern in one hand and a small dagger in the other for protection. As she approached the crumbling structure, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the ground. The air felt charged with an unsettling silence as she pushed the creaking door open, revealing a dimly lit interior. Dust motes floated lazily in the weak light, and the scent of decay filled her nostrils. Mai's heart raced as she ventured deeper, calling out, "Tuan, are you here?" Her voice echoed through the empty rooms, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. Eventually, she found herself standing before the mirror, the very same one that had trapped Tuan. A cold shiver ran down her spine as she approached the cracked glass. Just then, a whisper pierced the air. "Mai, help me!" It was Tuan's voice. Hope surged in her chest as she pressed her hands against the cold surface. "Tuan, where are you?" The reflection flickered, revealing Tuan's pale face, surrounded by dark, writhing shadows. "Get out, Mai! Don't stay here!" he shouted, but his voice was drowned by the sound of eerie, childish laughter that filled the room. Panic seized her heart. She turned to escape, but the door slammed shut behind her, trapping her inside. The shadows thickened, swirling ominously around her, their whispers turning into a chorus of taunts. "You should stay with us," a voice chimed. A little girl, hair dripping and eyes wide, approached Mai. "Tuan can't come back. He belongs to us now." "No," Mai cried, panic rising within her. "I won't let you take him." The girl giggled, and the room plunged into darkness, pressing down on Mai like a weight. A chilling sensation clawed at her mind, and she stumbled backward, feeling as though the shadows were trying to pull her in. She reached the mirror again, her heart pounding with urgency. "Tuan, fight it! I'm here!" she shouted, desperately searching for any sign of her brother in the reflection. In the mirror, Tuan's face appeared, filled with determination despite the surrounding darkness. "You have to go, Mai. Find the key." Before she could reply, the shadows surged forward, and Mai felt herself being drawn into the darkness. Summoning all her strength, she lunged for the mirror and grasped its edges, her heart racing. In an instant, the mirror shattered into countless shards, scattering across the floor. The laughter morphed into anguished cries, and as the darkness retreated, a blinding light enveloped Mai, lifting her off her feet. When the light faded, she found herself outside the house, gasping for breath, heart racing. The abandoned house loomed silent behind her, seemingly untouched by the chaos that had just unfolded. Desperation filled her as she recalled Tuan's words about the key. Where could it be? With a heavy heart, she turned to race back to the village, vowing to uncover the secrets of the house and find the key that would free her brother. But she had no idea that the darkness that had ensnared Tuan was still lurking, waiting for its next victim. With each hurried step back to the village, Mai could feel the house's curse breathing down her neck, the echoes of the little girl's laughter resonating in her mind, a constant reminder that the true danger was far from vanquished. The battle to save her brother was just beginning, and the shadows were eager to claim another soul. Chapter 3. The Key to the Past. Mai returned to the village, determined to find a way to save Tuan. She sought out Mr. Hang, the village elder, hoping he knew more about the cursed house. Mr. Hang warned her that the key she needed wasn't just a physical object, but something connected to the house's dark past. He explained that the house belonged to the Nguyen family, who disappeared mysteriously after the death of their young daughter, their grief leaving behind a curse that bound their souls within the house. With this clue, Mai began digging through old records in the village library. She found a newspaper article about the Nguyens, a kind and generous family who vanished one stormy night after their daughter passed away from a mysterious illness. The village suspected their spirits were trapped in the house, and some believed that the little girl's soul still wandered within, playing tricks on anyone who entered. Mai knew that to find the key and rescue Tuan, she needed to uncover the family's full story. Following the article's information, she visited a small cemetery at the edge of the village where the Nguyen family was buried. As she found their gravestone, she whispered a prayer, hoping to connect with their spirits. Suddenly, a strange gust of wind swept through the cemetery, and she heard faint, playful laughter, the sound of a child. Startled, Mai placed her hand on the cold stone, and a vision flooded her mind. She saw the Nguyen's final night. The parents desperately tending to their sick daughter, lightning striking outside, and then a terrible stillness as darkness swallowed everything. Shaken, Mai realized that the key wasn't just an object. It was connected to the unresolved grief of the Nguyen family. With no time to lose, she made her way back to the abandoned house, determined to confront whatever was keeping Tuan trapped. When she entered the house, it felt different. The air seemed heavier, yet there was a strange warmth in the rooms, as though the memories of the family lingered. Dust-covered toys lay scattered across the floor, and faded family photos hung on the walls, whispering stories of love and loss. She found herself back in the living room, standing before the shattered mirror. In the lantern's flickering light, she gathered her thoughts, remembering the vision she saw at the cemetery. She understood now. The family's grief was the true curse, and only by acknowledging it could she unlock the path to saving her brother. Mai placed her hands on the mirror's broken frame and spoke softly. "I understand your pain. You lost your daughter, and you've been trapped in sorrow ever since. I'm here to help you find peace." For a moment, there was silence. Then the air shimmered, and the shadows that haunted the house began to stir. The ghostly figure of the little girl appeared, her expression gentle for the first time. "You came back," the girl whispered. "Thank you. You can help us." As the darkness receded, Mai noticed a small hidden compartment at the base of the mirror. Inside lay an ornate key, glowing faintly with warmth, as if it held the essence of the family's release. "Take it," the girl urged. "It will unlock the door to freedom." With trembling hands, Mai took the key, feeling a surge of hope. She knew this was more than just a key to open a door. It was the key to breaking the curse that held both Tuan and the Nguyen family captive. Clutching it tightly, Mai understood that the hardest part was yet to come. The shadows weren't fully defeated. They would fight to keep their hold on Tuan. But now, armed with the key and the truth, Mai was ready to confront the darkness once and for all. The final battle for her brother's soul had begun, and Mai was determined to bring both Tuan and the Nguyen family the peace they deserved. Chapter 4. Into the darkness. With the glowing key in hand, Mai returned to the abandoned house, determined to save Tuan. The cold air bit at her skin, but she ignored it, knowing the final confrontation awaited inside. As she stepped through the creaking door, an eerie silence greeted her. Shadows crawled along the walls, restless and alive, as if aware of her presence. The house had grown colder, and the warmth she felt during her previous visit was gone. Mai knew that if she failed here, she might never leave, and neither would Tuan. She made her way to the living room, where the shattered mirror stood, waiting like a gateway between two worlds. The jagged shards seemed to hum with the energy of trapped souls. "I'm here, Tuan. I'll bring you back," she whispered into the heavy silence. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, twisting into ghastly shapes, faces with hollow eyes, bony hands reaching out to ensnare her. At the heart of the darkness, the ghostly little girl appeared, her expression no longer playful but filled with fury. "You won't take him," the girl hissed. "He's ours now." Mai felt fear claw at her, but she held the key tightly, drawing strength from its warm glow. "You don't have to stay in this pain anymore," Mai said firmly. "Your family is waiting. It's time to let go." The girl's face flickered with uncertainty, but the shadows around her thrashed violently, refusing to release their grip. They swirled closer, dragging Mai toward the mirror as if to swallow her whole. Mai fought back against the crushing darkness, shouting, "Your sorrow doesn't have to trap you here. I can help you find peace." The key glowed brighter, filling the room with light that pierced through the shadows. The figures recoiled, their sinister whispers turning into mournful sobs. The little girl's anger melted into sadness. "We don't know how to leave," she whispered. Mai took a step closer, her voice soft but steady. "I'll show you the way." She pressed the glowing key against the cracked mirror. A brilliant light spread across the shards, fusing them together until the glass was whole. The surface shimmered and rippled, forming a glowing portal. On the other side, Mai saw Tuan, looking pale but alive. "Mai!" he cried, reaching for her. Without hesitation, Mai pulled him through the portal, his hand warm in hers. Relief surged through her as she realized her brother was finally safe. As Tuan stepped into the room, the Nguyen family appeared beside them, their ghostly forms glowing softly. The parents smiled at Mai, their faces filled with silent gratitude, and the little girl grinned for the first time, free from the sorrow that had consumed her. "We're ready now," the girl whispered. The family moved toward the portal, their spirits finally at peace. The house trembled, and the oppressive darkness that had haunted it for so long began to dissolve. As the family disappeared through the glowing doorway, the little girl looked back at Mai and smiled. "Thank you," she said quietly, before vanishing into the light. With the curse lifted, the room fell silent. The house, once suffocating with grief and shadows, now felt empty and peaceful. Mai and Tuan stepped into the early morning light outside the house. The rising sun touched the landscape, casting long shadows that felt more like memories than threats. The house stood quietly behind them, no longer a place of terror, just an old structure left to the past. Tuan turned to Mai, his voice trembling with emotion. "I thought I was lost forever. You saved me." Mai smiled, squeezing his hand. "I told you I'd never leave you." They walked together toward the village, the weight of the nightmare finally lifting from their hearts. Mai glanced back one last time at the house. It no longer held power over her. It was simply a forgotten relic, with its stories now laid to rest. Though the darkness had ended, Mai knew she would always carry the memory of the Nguyen family, their sorrow, their laughter, and the courage it took to release them. The nightmare was over, and she and Tuan were free at last. Chapter 5. Echoes of the Past. Days after escaping the cursed house, Mai and Tuan tried to settle back into their normal lives, but the memories of the haunting lingered. Tuan was withdrawn, still haunted by the time he had spent trapped within the darkness. His nights were restless, filled with dreams of the Nguyen family and their tragic story. Though the curse was broken, some invisible threads still seemed to tie their lives to the events that had unfolded in that house. Mai couldn't shake the feeling that something was left unresolved. The house was quiet now, no longer possessed by restless spirits. Yet the memories of the little girl's voice and her playful laughter remained in Mai's mind. She wondered if all the souls had truly found peace, or if there was something more they had tried to tell her. Driven by this unease, Mai decided to visit Mr. Hung, the village elder who knew the most about the house's past. When she explained her lingering worries, Mr. Hung revealed a troubling detail. The curse was broken, yes, he said, but spirits like theirs, bound by grief for so long, leave behind echoes. Their memory will remain, and unless it's truly acknowledged, they'll never be completely at rest. Realizing what needed to be done, Mai convinced Tuan to join her one last time at the Nguyen family's graves. They walked to the quiet cemetery at the edge of the village where the family's tombstones stood side by side. Tuan hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes, but Mai squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We have to say goodbye," she whispered, "for them and for us." Together, they cleaned the graves and placed fresh flowers on each one. As they stood in silence, Mai felt the weight of the family's sorrow lift slightly, as if acknowledging their pain gave it meaning. Then she lit incense sticks and whispered a prayer. "Your story won't be forgotten. You're free now." At that moment, the air around them shifted. A soft breeze blew through the cemetery, and Mai heard the faintest sound, the little girl's laughter, light and carefree, as if carried on the wind. Tuan's eyes widened, and he smiled for the first time since they escaped the house. "She's happy," he whispered. "They're really free now." For the first time in days, Mai felt at peace. The darkness that had weighed on her heart lifted, and she knew that both she and Tuan could finally move on. They stayed a while longer, basking in the quiet serenity of the cemetery, before walking back toward the village under the warm afternoon sun. Back in the village, life slowly returned to normal. Tuan's nightmares faded, and he began to smile and laugh again, regaining the joy he had lost. Mai, too, found a sense of closure, though the experience would stay with her forever. The old house still stood at the edge of the village, but now it was just a building, empty and forgotten by the world, its curse no longer a threat. From time to time, Mai would hear rumors of villagers passing by the house, claiming to hear the faint sound of a child's laughter drifting from within. But Mai knew better. It wasn't a haunting, but a memory. a lingering echo of a spirit that had finally found peace. Though the darkness was behind them, Mai and Tuan knew that they had been changed by what they experienced. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in the face of unimaginable fear. They had faced the darkness and emerged together, carrying with them not just the weight of survival, but also the knowledge that even the most haunted souls could find peace. As they moved forward with their lives, Mai often thought back to the Nguyen family and the little girl. Her story, though tragic, had brought them closer and taught them that some losses can't be undone, but they can be remembered with love and compassion. The nightmare had ended, but its lessons would stay with Mai forever. Darkness, she realized, wasn't always something to be feared. Sometimes it only needed a little light to guide it home.